Hello, welcome to the first video of the tutorial series. Starting off, we have the first level, the Pilot's Gauntlet. Luckily, this level functions as the game's tutorial, and as a result is pretty light. It's mostly auto-scroller with a little bit of pilot movement, so let's get into it. Starting off, we're going to just follow the tutorial prompts. Look at the lights one at a time, then spam space and enter for the pop-up. We're going to wait a bit longer for the screen to fade to white, then start sprinting forward when you hear the sound effect. We're just going to maintain a simple slide hop string along this path. The first section of the gauntlet is effectively an auto-scroller since we only need to keep up with Lastimos's dialogue. In fact, you can flub some of your movement here and still easily keep up with auto-scroller's speed. You want to be at this ledge before Lastimosa finishes saying this line about your jump kit calibrating. We're going to continue waiting at this ledge, then jump toward the wall off of an upcoming audio cue. And as a quick note for now and future reference, whenever there's an audio cue for a specific syllable, I'll put up one of these graphics so it's easier to understand what to listen for. So jump on that audio cue to grab the wall as soon as it becomes active, wall jump at the other side, and continue a slide hop through the crawl space. You also want to make sure you're going fast enough here in order to skip Lastimosa's under here stay low dialogue, which will save a couple seconds. You shouldn't have to worry about this though, as it's pretty free, assuming you have no major flubs in your movement. From here, it's mainly just auto-scroller as we get our double jump and slide up on over to the gun range. In order to keep up with auto-scroller speed, you want to get here before the guns drop, which shouldn't be that difficult to do. So the tutorial here is going to make you pick up a gun, reload it, and shoot the targets before progressing. Technically, any gun works, but the R201 is a standard choice among runners. To speed things up though, we can skip the reload animation of the gun. We do this by starting to reload the pistol just before grabbing the R201, and we keep that reload input held the entire time. This will cause the R201 to gain ammo without having to reload. Then you can just spray the targets, turn around, and start slide hopping toward the gauntlet. Coming into the gauntlet now, this is definitively the hardest and also most influential part of the level. It's pretty tough trying to find a comfy route through here as a beginner. What I'm showing on screen is more or less what you want to try to follow. Some general tips for this segment is you want to stay high up on the wall so that you can easily cross all the literal pitfalls. This is also a good spot to chain some wall kicks together, but you'll want to be mindful of your line when doing this though. Of course, airstrafing is always going to give you suboptimal lines, but you still want to keep them relatively straight instead of constantly bouncing left and right between every wall. As you end the gauntlet, you'll want to slow down to around 40 speed or less and go through the start trigger again and go back to Lastimosa. This will cause him to skip some dialogue, saving a bit of time. More on the slowing down bit though, we do this because the trigger that starts the gauntlet is unreliable. The faster you go through, the more likely it is to not trigger. This can also affect you when you first enter the gauntlet as well, so you don't want to keep too much speed there either. On the rare occasion that the gauntlet still does not start at low speed though, you can run back to the trigger to reset it. One last thing I want to mention about the gauntlet is the option to use frags. They can be pretty intimidating as a beginner, but I think it's worth considering. In the gauntlet, you can't die, which removes a lot of the danger that's usually associated with explosive boosts. They're also easier to execute here and will likely save a lot of time since it's one of the few reliable ways for a beginner to achieve high speeds. You can grab frags before starting the gauntlet in the right corner, and using them here is fairly simple. You can just fully cook them and let them explode. There are a couple caveats though. Getting a good boost usually requires you to jump right before the explosion, but the explosion will send you at a downward trajectory. So the best way to go about these frag boosts is to time your first jump right before the explosion, and save your double jump to recover from the awkward trajectory afterward. Once you get a good boost, I wouldn't try to double dip for another frag boost, rather just focus on keeping the speed you do have. Once you're done with the gauntlet, walk right in front of Lastimosa to prompt his dialogue, then hit the top option, then the bottom option on the next one. You'll teleport outside where he'll instruct you to call a Titanfall. You'll want to press the button at a fairly relaxed pace. Spamming the button makes it more likely for a bug to happen where BT explodes, which resets the game to the last checkpoint. And finally, at the fade out at the end of the level, spam space and enter to select the easy difficulty. For whatever reason, the game briefly highlights the easy difficulty before switching to the recommended one, so we can just beat out that process by spamming fast enough. If you're concerned you accidentally selected the wrong difficulty, you can check it on the pause screen and change it if needed. But that's it for beginner strats. Congrats on making it through the first level. I'll see you on the next level, BT7274. Due to the heavy auto-scroller nature of this level, we're not going to see many new strats, but the first of the few here is going to be a small dialogue skip at the start of the level. To do this, stand beside last Mosa after the stairs and jump into a slide hop string off of this audio cue. You can then carry that speed into a crouch kick off the wall run and continue through the crawl space as usual. This will allow you to skip the "now you're moving" dialogue as well. This saves about a second or two over the previous strat here. The rest of the strats for this difficulty are going to take a closer look at the explosive options available to us. The first of which is going to be the EPG. This is an explosive gun that you can grab while waiting for the guns to drop at the range. It's hidden up above behind the wall, so you'll need to jump off the curved walls on the side a couple times to grab it. You can start making use of it immediately after the gun range too. The standard route here is to slide hop into a crouch kick off the right wall, then flick shot behind you after each jump. And you'll want to make sure that you keep a nice strafe to the left here in order to dodge the gun wraps in the middle. This will lead straight into picking up the frags for the Gauntlet, which I also want to talk about a bit more. Alright, so we're going to streamline the frags a bit more for the Gauntlet. The beginner difficulty touched on them a little bit, but you should really have a well-defined route at this point. For the first frag, we're going to pull it as soon as we pick up the frags and jump off both walls. Go for a late wall kick on the doorway to keep a low speed, then throw the frag at the ground off reaction. And to clarify, off reaction just means in reaction to the beeping sound the frag makes. A good frag will net you at least 70 speed here, and you can bump that up to 80 plus with an immediate crouch kick after. We're also going to pull our next frag immediately after the first one, then options select what we do with it. If you had an average amount of speed after the last kick, around 80 or below, throw it forward after you pass under the crawl space. If done right, the explosion will add a boost to your jump, which will help you clear the rocks in that room pretty nicely. If you had around mid 80s or more after the last kick, then you can throw the frag away and EPG boost upward after the crawl space. At this point, if you already have about 90 speed, you can stop going for frags since they won't add any speed. Instead, throw in a couple of crouch kicks here and there and focus on keeping a fairly direct line to the end. If you still have room for a bit more speed though, you can keep going for frags but use the same method mentioned in the beginner difficulty. Jump just before fully cooking it to get the most speed. You can also opt for EPG boost here if you find that more comfortable, though they are going to be a bit less effective than frags. And that's all for the intermediate strats, pretty quick. For this last segment, I just have one last strat to throw into the mix. This is going to be wall run skip. By building up enough speed at the start of the level, you can manage to jump the gap at the first wall run. As a result, it skips 3 seconds of dialogue over the beginner strat. The setup for this is very tricky though, as it's a game of both building speed but also spacing, making sure that your slide hop route allows you to jump right at the ledge. For my setup, I once again sprint during the white screen, then jump as soon as the level is visible, and transition into a slide hop string. I take very aggressive strafes until I reach somewhere around 48 or 49 speed, then just try to maintain that. I know I have a good setup if I manage to land a slide up right in front of the small set of stairs, which avoids having to lose speed to them. From there, I go to the left of last Mosa, then take a wide strafe to the right as I approach the ledge. The way you execute the final jump can vary depending on the setup you get. In most cases, I can just fit in an extended slide hop at the end, and that will give me the height necessary to cross the gap. In some scenarios, you might find yourself going a little faster than usual and won't have room to fit in an extended slide hop. In this case, you definitely don't want to do a regular slide hop at the ledge since it gives very little height. You miss that jump every time unless you have a ludicrous amount of speed. Instead, just opt for a bunny hop. It's harder to time, but you're more likely to succeed with it. Another option you have if you pick up on the scenario early is you can throw in a couple half slides before the ledge. This can give you the perfect amount of room you need to pull off an extended slide hop. If you happen to mess up your movement at all leading up to the wall run skip, that's usually going to kill any chances you have at hitting it, but you can still resort to the other dialogue skip. That's going to be all for this level though. Thanks for watching, and good luck on your practice.